Hi YouTube, my name is Lucas Ridley, and let's create this cool crater effect together inside of Autodesk Maya. So I posted this effect on Twitter and I got some good feedback, so I thought I would make a quick tutorial about it. I've only done this once and I'm gonna just recreate it kind of live off the cuff here, not very edited, and so excuse me if there's like a little bit of back and forth. So let's get started. So I posted it on Twitter and it got a few likes, and so here is that tweet. If you wanna follow me on Twitter, you can check that out. I also teach at digitalcreatorschool.com if you want to learn more. So I have this scene, which is available to all Digital Creators School members in their resource library if you want to take a look at that. So this is what we're going to create together. This is a ball rig I'm currently creating for a mentorship program I'm putting together. So if you're interested in that, check out digitalcreatorschool.com/animators-journey to sign up to be notified for that. So essentially, we're going to use Mesh. Mesh is a super powerful kind of motion graphics tool set inside of Maya. I've made several tutorials about it before. I have a couple courses that also use it. So let's get started. I'm going to delete all of this and we are going to start from scratch, which is kind of scary because I've only made this once. I'm going to hide this ball rig for now, and we are going to get started with a cube. So we have a cube and we want to make a Mesh network out of it. Now, you might have to go to Windows Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager, and enable Mesh if you don't have this menu here. So I'm going to create a Mesh network, and then I have on by default to create a grid distribution. If you don't have that, then you can just choose it from the menu here. So grid distribution, I think I just maxed it out and increased this. Might have to do 50, I think, to make sure that we have overlapping cubes. So now we kind of have this hidden floor that is actually overlapping cubes, so that when we affect it, it's going to look like it's kind of fractured. Of course, you could also use Mesh if you wanted to make your own custom fractured floor. I believe it is the distribution type in position PP to make sure that how you've created it starts that way. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure I haven't haven't done that version in a while, but it's either in position PP or initial state. I forget which one. Anyway, so what we're essentially going to do is we're going to kind of layer on these effects, which are essentially just a few offsets. So it just shows how powerful Mesh is that you can quickly add these effects up and get a pretty cool result. So I'm going to go to Mesh, the waiter here. And if you don't have the Mesh editor, that's available from right here. This is the Mesh editor. And I like to dock it under my outliner because it's basically the outliner for the Mesh network. So by default, we have the distribute node. And then if we click this one, we get the kind of menu set here. And what I want to do is add an offset. So I'm going to add an offset and then make sure it's chosen. And then I want to just push everything down. I think it was 2.5, negative 2.5. And that's going to be the first one. Now it pushes them all down together. We're going to fix that by creating a fall off object. So if I scroll down here, I can right click in this empty window and say create. So now I have a fall off object that only affects the area where the fall off goes. And so you can kind of see where this is going and how we're going to build this effect up pretty quickly. So we've got the first one, and then we want another one to have kind of a rim around the crater. I mean, of course, you could layer these effects however you like. This is just how I did it. So I essentially made another kind of rim that went the opposite direction. So I want to create another offset node, go to add offset, then move this, I think, up maybe 3 is what I did. And then if we were to create like a normal fall off object, it's going to affect the whole thing like this is, like a big sphere. Of course, there's different fall off shapes we can choose, but nothing kind of has a donut shape where we can kind of eliminate the center. So what we can do is actually, we could either use a NURBS curve or we could use a donut. And so I just click the polymodeling up here, create a donut. I'm going to expand it out and kind of get it in the neighborhood of what the ring shape of the crater is going to be. So I'm going to head over to the inputs of this and just decrease the section radius quite a lot, because we only need it to kind of affect like a thin area. So I'm going to scale that up to kind of get it in the neighborhood. And then we can hook that up to the offset. So I'm going back to the offset, make sure I click that and get the attributes pulled up for that. And then when we go to create an offset for that, we can choose mesh. So I'm going to right click and say create. Now it creates the default kind of sphere for it. So of course it's affecting everything, and we don't want to do that, which is kind of the problem now. So what we can do is, go to the fall off object. We can double click it through that menu. We also have it in our normal outliner. We can get to the attributes there as well. So for the shape, I want to choose mesh. And then for shape in, I just want to middle mouse drag from the outliner the torus that we created. So now when we move the torus around, that is our fall off shape, and it should affect that area. Now we'll have to play with this a little bit to, make sure it's affecting the right area that we want it to affect, and it's having the correct fall off, because I think the mesh is a bit finicky on the fall off. Unlike these other ones, the inner radius is a bit not as effective as having a big area like the normal sphere. And that's why in the inputs, I made the torus radius so small, because I'm trying to have the 100% value be very small in area. And so that it gives it a bigger area to fall off. So the other thing you can change is the custom shape radius. So that will give us a better fall off. And then we can just kind of go back to the offset and dial back in the position. If we don't want it, what I'm doing is holding down control and middle mouse in this value area. And now I can just scrub and change the value without having to type something in. And this is something you can also keyframe and animate. So I could right click on this and set a key and time it however I wanted. So I'm just going to say maybe 2, not 20, 2. And so now if we move these two fall offs together, we kind of have this effect where we get the impact first and then the crater. And so you'll just have to line these up however you want to time out the effect of it. If you wanted this closer, we could just move this further down. Sorry, I still have them both selected. We could just move this down, scale it in, and have it affect a lot sooner, so that now when we move them together, the ridge is impacting sooner. And once we parent these together, we could scale these out together at the same time, so they'll kind of affect each other at the same time. Now we're losing the ridge as we scale up because this is so far below the pivot, it's actually getting pushed through the floor. So you may have to counter key, it's not getting pushed through the floor, it's getting raised up, I guess. Anyway, you'd have to kind of adjust, translation wise to make sure that kind of stayed linked up. But that's essentially how we're going to do it. Now, one thing you might notice is this effect looks very uniform, very pixelated, because it's just cubes right now. So what we can do to kind of roughen that up is two different things. We can add randomization, and then we can also add an orient node to this as well. So let's jump in and do that. So back to the main mesh window, I'm going to go, what should we do first? So let's do the random one first. So I'm going to left click on that, add random node. And of course it's affecting everything, and we don't want that to happen. And sometimes when you add stuff, the mesh editor doesn't update. And so you have to close it down, reopen it, and then we get the mesh random node. And what I would like to do is also have it not be after everything, because it is happening in an order, right? So we want to click and drag this below all of this stuff, and we want to add it to another fall off object. So I'm going to go to the fall off object here, and I'm going to connect it to one. And I can also, if I wanted to isolate these effects, just because I'm like, there's too much happening and I can't really adjust the attributes of one without seeing all the effect of the other, I can just turn them off in the mesh editor right here. So we have the default values here, 1, 1, 1. I don't want to move them up and down. I just want to move them side to side. And I don't want to move them that much because I don't want to create gaps in the floor. So I'm going to say maybe 0.5 for both of those, X and Y, and see if that helps. And then we could also add a random strength here. So it's not affecting everything evenly. We can dial that down. Of course, we could add a total strength and just kind of dial that up and down. If we have a value there and we don't want to keep typing something in, we can just click and drag the total strength and then get to where we don't maybe have the holes in the floor. We could also turn on the wireframe on shaded to kind of see the effect before the other ones come in. So I think when I did this originally, I also had this come in first. So the random node kind of hits first, and then the fall off object rather, and then the others hit. So we're gonna basically move these all together, and then that is gonna be how we're gonna get this effect. So let me make sure I'm on the right random node, and then I'm gonna scale this up. Let's see, where is this guy? So this is, once we see it kind of in action, it's maybe not, why can I not scale that? That's not fun. Hello. Normally you can scale these things. What is going on here? Oh, I have the, that is weird. That's fun tutorial making right there for you. I don't know why the manipulator handle isn't working for that. That's always fun. It's in object mode. Hello. All right, that's moving on. Thanks, Maya. Okay, so let's scale this back down. I'm just gonna work around this little bug right now. I'm sure if I close and open Remaya, it'd be fine. And because now I can see it's not really affecting everything as much as I would like it to, I can just hop back in here and just increase that, because we won't really see the holes in the floor, right, when it's all jumbled up like this. So I think I can get away with maybe a bit more randomness. The other thing we're going to do is add an orientation. So let's jump back into Mesh and add an orient node. So what that's going to do is basically we can aim it at a target. And so we need to give it a target. And I've already got one here. I think I have it animated. So let me just delete the animation on it for now and drag that down. And so basically we can tell that orient node, hey, point everything at this locator, and then we can use that locator as the target. So I'm middle mouse dragging and dropping it in. So now you can see we get this orientation effect. So, you know, you could animate this, you could have them all move together. It's kind of just like this layering effect, and how you want to animate them and use them in combination with each other is totally up to you. So let's see if I can't get some kind of a good combo here working like I did in the original. So I'm gonna grab all the fall offs and kind of drag them up. And it would be good to have a fall off for the orient as well. And you can reuse fall off objects. So I could connect it to one. Let's see, which one do I want to use? Probably the random. So I could grab the orient and then middle mouse drag this one in. So now we have one fall off affecting two nodes, okay? And so now let's grab all of these fall offs, and notice I'm selecting the torus, because remember that fall off is actually this mesh, all right? And so now we have this effect. Let me turn off the wireframe on shaded. So that's essentially the effect I made, and I animated it to work with the ball. So we can see there's maybe some gaps in here, and we can go, now that we have the orient in, then it's kind of a back and forth of like, maybe we don't need as much randomness, and then we can kind of close that down and have a reduced strength so we don't have as many gaps. Then we can also go to the orient and change the random strength, so it's a bit more noise just coming from that node. So then we don't have to have as much randomness coming from the actual random node. All right, and so that is basically how you do it. I will quickly animate this. Let's go ahead and animate it real quick. I'm going to put everything. What should I put it under? The locator? Let's do that. Middle mouse drag under the locator. Now we just have to move one thing, and they'll all move together. Now what I need to do is animate this to the timing of the ball coming in, which I hid. So let me unhide that. And we're right here. So it lands on this frame. So let's grab the locator. We'll bring it down. So here is the impact frame. Okay, so I can keyframe the locator, go up one frame, and then we can just pull this back up. And we can have kind of like a disturbance the frame before, and then we can pull it totally off on this frame. So slam down, and then we can just simply scale this up. It's kind of a quick and dirty way to have this rollout effect. Now, the other, it looks like the randomness node isn't following, or the other ones aren't, because they're being stubborn. So it may have been better to scale. Oh, they just can't scale in a single direction. That's what's happening. So that's fun. All right. Anyway, so let's just animate this thing scaling up and smashing. And what I think I'm going to need to do is compensate the torus, because we're losing the ridge as it's kind of getting offset here. So I'm just going to match the keyframes of where it is where I want it and where I don't want it, and then just correct for that. Bring this back up. And I could also just scale this up so it's kind of going at a different rate. Kind of resolves itself out here. So now we have this kind of effect. Boom. And what I did too was let me hop over into this render camera, and I can hide all of these so we don't see those. I have a camera motion library. And so I made my own render cam here, which is what we're viewing this through. And I put the camera animation on 2 separate tracks to have an impact. So if I play this back, and of course, we keyframe the visibility here. So what we can do is just say right click, delete selected, and then we do not want to keyframe that. So I'm going to say make selected non-keyable. And so now when I hide it and I make keyframes in the future, it won't try to animate that visibility. So now when I hit play, we have this huge camera impact that helps sell that crater. And that came from the real camera motion library, which is 40 some odd camera moves. And the really nice thing is that when you import it into Maya with the Atom file format, which is right here, which I never really used, to be honest, until I made the camera library, you can just say import animation, and it'll automatically put it into an animation layer. So you could have your camera set up and then just say, hey, add some noise to it, and you can just add it to a layer. And if you want to add more than one, which is what I did, so I brought in the kind of camera shake, which for this case was actually just the car fast clip. The car fast clip has so much motion to it, I actually just use it for impacts a lot, and then I animate the weight of the animation layer. So I brought that one in first, and I was like, you know what? I want a little bit of an idle camera move on top of this. It's kind of subtle. I don't know if you can see it, before and after the camera shake. So then I brought in an idle, and what it does is when you bring in the Maya Atom file, it'll just scoot the animation you already have on that layer down. So now you have the idle, and then you have the camera shake one. And then what you can do is just say right click, duplicate this layer. And so now you have a copy, and then you can just delete the one you don't want, slide the animation of the one you do want of that layer down. And so you can see that in the graph editor here. If I pop it up, I might have to tear it off because my face is probably hiding it. So let me just tear that off. And Maya's going to be a bit finicky right now. So tear this off, grab the camera, and you can kind of see I've locked these layers so they're grayed out. But so this is the idle, and then this is the camera shake, and you can see the weight I animated here. So I'm just kind of having a big impact on, boom, on the impact, and then it's kind of tapering off a long taper that's additive on top of the idle. So that's the one little trick when you import the Maya Atom. You just have to, it imports it as an override layer. And so it will kind of take your camera and put it back at 0, because all these camera animations are for 0, 0, 0, so that they can be applied additively. But you just have to manually do that once you import them. Just go additive, boom, your camera snaps back to where it was before you imported it. And then you can just kind of layer on these effects, animate the weight of the animation layer, and you have real quick and easy camera shake, camera motion. There's reframes. There's all kinds of cool stuff in that animation library you can get for, right now it's for $25. And if you grab it from Digital Creator School, you get the Unreal assets, you get the Blender FBXs, you get the Maya FBXs, and you get the Maya.atom files. So I've had some big name studios actually buy it. And you can see some of the logos on the page of who's done that. And one that didn't agree to that, so I can't include that one on that page, which was painful because it was it was a big one. Anyway, so that is how you make this effect. This file is available for all Digital Creator School members in the resource library. I'm not going to include this ball rig right now because it's still a work in progress. So everything else about this project will be available to download there. And like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Let me know what you want to see next. Don't forget, I'm doing animation secrets weekly. So please subscribe and check those out. I have done, I don't know, 8 or 9 by now, I think 10. I forget how many. And I have a few more down the line. And comment, let me know if you want to see something else or there's something you want to check out. But if you watch this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, then check out my Maya for Beginners course. It's on Digital Creator School as well. It teaches you everything, the entire pipeline. I've had people, I just got an email this week of a guy who's now working at a VR animation company because he took that course. And then after a year or two of working and training, now he got a job. I also had another person, if you look at the community tab on my YouTube channel, another student of mine, after a year of using Maya, taking my class, he made his own short film. So in a short amount of time, you can learn this stuff and do some pretty cool things. So hopefully this has helped. If it has, let me know, and please subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. I've probably said that 10 times already, so sorry for that. It's a little late here. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.